When it comes to sports, stardom is always a great topic. Who's the GOAT? Who's more valuable in team success? And with Miami and South Florida having major moments across the entire sports landscape, we ask, who's the biggest star in South Florida sports? From Messi to Tua to Jimmy Butler, we debate that and more on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg, here as always with Ramil. However, you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. A little bit of a different kind of show for you today. This is going to just be a big debate about who the biggest sports stars in South Florida are. So David and I both have ranked our top 5. We have some honorable mentions that we'll get to first with Lionel Messi's arrival. We just thought it was a good time to kind of take a look at this because Messi is an international superstar among international superstars. He comes to Inter Miami, and it's the kind of thing that just sort of shifts the tectonic plates of an entire region in sports. And I don't think that I'm overstating it when I say that, David, right? Like this is like Michael Jordan, coming to play for your basically expansion NBA franchise, kind of. It's like right. It is. I guess it's a little bit like Michael Jordan playing for the Wizards. Now that I'm talking about it, but this is more like
maybe like playing for like the what is it, the Albany Patroons or whatever they're called in the CBA, the old CBA, or join the G League Ignite or something like that. At the prime,
no disrespect to Inter Miami, but they're like, even with Messi, they're already basically out of the playoff thing. We will tie this all back. This is Locked On Heat. We will tie it back to the Miami Heat, specifically which members of the Miami Heat fall in our top 5. But before, we're going to go from 1 to 5. We broke this down in a few different categories, David. We basically have 5 different things, different factors that we took into consideration here. Number 1 being their talent, comparable to the rest of the league that they play in, the rest of the sport, shall we say, that they play in. Number 2 is their resume, accomplishments, resume, awards, all those things. Number 3, their importance to South Florida specifically. This is the stars in South Florida. That's what we're talking about. What is their importance to South Florida's market, community, the teams here, and all those things. And then number 5 is their global appeal, right? How big does their how far does their star power extend? How large of a shadow do they cast? So we're going to talk about all those things. We're going to go from our number 1 star to our 5th star. You and I have prepared our different top 5 lists. We haven't seen them. I have a feeling that our top 2 are going to look very similar and the rest of them are going to look very different. And that's where most of the debate is going to get heated. But before we get to all that stuff, David, just some honorable mentions. We'll start with yours.
Yeah. A couple players that didn't quite make the cut, including one very near and dear to listeners of this podcast. That's Bam Adebayo gets the honorable mention outside of the top 5 stars in South Florida. Just an impressive player, super young, obviously, and I hate to do this to him on his birthday or right after his birthday, but just doesn't tally enough points for me there in terms of, what he has done for South Florida and his importance, the it factor and everything. As far as talent is concerned, I gave him an 8 in comparison to the rest of the league. Obviously a star level player, but not the elite superstar, not even somebody who's won a lot of awards, doesn't get that kind of recognition. A very, 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 very good elite level role player, which is not something sexy that stands out to fans in general and even players around the league. They all appreciate what he does, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's got the elite level, star level talent. So he's right up there, but not quite good enough. And in terms of accomplishments, a couple all-star teams, won a gold with the Olympics, that matters. Being an anchor of a couple teams that made it to the finals, that's all fine and good. It's an impressive resume, just not nearly enough. And then as far as like the it factor, he just definitely does not have it. He's a fun guy, smart, great to talk to, really a joy to watch on the floor. But in terms of global appeal and how he stands out, I just don't see it from Bam. He's just doesn't bring that kind of allure to being a superstar that you might expect.
I basically agree with everything you said. The talent, if you have it as an 8 out of 10, that sounds about right to me. We have been on this show several times saying We think he's a top 20 to 25 player in the NBA any way that you slice it. And I think that he's right there. The resume is not as big, is fine, but he's young. You know, like you said, he just had his birthday. He's 26 years old. He's got a couple all-star teams. He's been in the defensive player of the year conversation now for 3 years in a row. The gold medal is a big one, and it's a big one when you get to his global importance, right? Sure. But he doesn't have that global reach, right? He's not going on tour in China. He's not doing that kind of thing, right? In terms of his importance to South Florida, I have that as a 10 out of 10.
Oh, no way. Oh, no way. Like,
first of all, his importance to the team is a 10 out of 10.
That's fine.
His importance,
that's 20
he does
people,
a lot of work in the community. I think that's important. I think his importance to South Florida, like him with Jimmy Butler,
they were trying to trade him. They were trying to trade him like 3 months ago, like before the playoffs.
I'm talking about Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, half the fan base has been like,
oh, the fan base. I don't know. I mean, half the fan
base.
Well,
that's South Florida, dude.
We were trying to trade Jimmy Butler before they were trying to trade Jimmy Butler before the playoffs too.
And we'll absolutely hold that against the South Florida fans as well. But like we're talking about, like if your fan base loves you, the way, let's say, for example, that Portland claims to love Dame Lillard, do they talk about trading him because he's a negative? They want to like save Dame. They want to like glorify him and remember him for all he did in Portland. This is like Bam is a bum, too not aggressive, doesn't know how to score, got no bag, et cetera, et cetera. Like, dude. Like, I love Bam Adebayo. I know how important he is to basketball and South Florida and to the Miami Heat. That's not to say that the people that he's supposed to be reaching the most feel the same way.
When I looked at this category, I didn't even think about the sentiment of pockets of like fans, because there are pockets of fans that you're right. They think that Bam should be doing more. There's a lot of fans also who freaking love this guy and love everything that he stands for. And so I'm going to split the difference. You know, a lot of Heat fans that I talk to in real life love Bam Adebayo. Love him.
Those guys, what do they know?
Twitter hates him.
Right.
Real life people in real conversations, outdoors, in bars, doing at arenas, they freaking love this guy. And so I'm going to split the difference. And I'm not even including that. I'm just thinking like his actual, like when I say importance to South Florida, I mean like what it is that they actually provide their teams right now. I think that needs to be a factor in this thing. And Bam, what? You mean a 10? Like how Bam is as important as anybody on the Miami Heat.
No. I'm not debating that. I just don't think that when you look at importance to South Florida, you're just talking about to their team. Like the South Florida, like Udonis has a 10. Dan Marino has a 10.
Yeah,
Bam Adebayo is like a 5, a 6. That's like I thought I was being generous with a 6 in terms of his importance to South Florida. Like they're buying his jersey, but you know he's not even Alonzo Mourning. He's not in terms of like how the fan base.
I mean, you're comparing him to Zoe and Marino and all these guys that are legends in this market. I'm talking about just like I guess I was thinking more like currently, like right now at this moment, how important are they to their teams and to the market? Because my thing with Bam is without Bam, the Heat aren't contenders. Without Bam, Damian Lillard doesn't want to come here. And I just think that is so important when we're talking about the biggest stars in South Florida sports, like how much he matters.
We defined his category.
I guess we did.
This is what happens with award shows.
I guess so. Yeah. This is why people have a problem with the Academy, I suppose. All right. So he's an honorable mention. What's another honorable mention? I also had him as an honorable mention. I did not have him in the top 5.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So I've got Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah, that's a good one. Same.
He's a Miami's probably most recognizable player, despite the fact that Sandy Alcantara hit, the
Marlins. The Miami Marlins.
Cy Young. Yes, he was a Cy Young Award winner. I forget the guy's name now, who's like batting him close to 400. He's
Luis
like,
Reyes.
Reyes.
I had all three of them. All three of them. Let's just do all three of them right now. I had all three.
The Miami Marlins are an honorable mention. They're like hardly considered a sports team.
And it's honestly just because of the Marlins, man. Like if the Yankees were here, if the Marlins were the Yankees, these three might be in the top 5. You know what I mean? Jazz was on the cover of MLB The Show this year, and he's an honorable mention because the Marlins don't resonate. If they were an earthquake, they would be a 0.2. Like it just they don't. I know it's a little sad. It doesn't. They don't resonate. They don't resonate. I love Alcantara, Cy Young. All right, Arraez is a stud. I mean, this when you talk about like accomplishments, 2 All-Stars, AL batting champ. Like these guys are studs. I'm not taking anything away from them. Unfortunately, they play for the Marlins and not the Dolphins, the Hurricanes, or the Miami Heat. So they have to be honorable mentions. They just have to be. Yeah, because like basically when you go through the rank, we don't have to do their categories, but importance to South Florida, they're all basically like under 5 just because they played for the Marlins. And that's not fair to them. It just is the way it is. All right. So we got those 3. I have another one I think is probably an honorable mention of yours. We're going to do that quickly here, and then we're going to get into our top 5. I got Matthew Tkachuk from the Panthers.
Ooh. Yeah, he makes my top 5 stars. So now
Really?
I'm wondering who your stars are.
That's beautiful. Now's a good time to take a break. We're going to do that. Then we're going to come back and we're going to get into our top 5s. And it sounds like there's going to be a ton of surprises. We're going to do that next here on Locked On Heat. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting on Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets. Whether you win or you lose your original wager, you get $200 in bonus bets. That's $200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to place a bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. This is our last show for the week. Have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Matthew Tkachuk was in your top 5, but none of the Marlins were?
Yep.
Talk to me.
I think it's comparable to, again, individual accomplishments or at least star level. He's like a 2-time All-Star, so a little bit more than Bam. Was the best player on a team that just went to the Stanley Cup Finals, which is something that Bam Adebayo can't say. Like Bam, certainly
Jimmy was the guy, yeah.
The contributor, it's Jimmy, and that was all the buzz going into the finals was Jimmy versus Jokic, et cetera. So Tkachuk is that guy, and when you carry the team, I think that earns you a spot in the top 5.
Recently ranked 4th on like power rankings of NHL players. I mean, we're talking about a star right now. You could put him anywhere between 4th and like basically 10th, 11th in the NHL, depending on your flavor. But I left him out of my top 5 just because he plays hockey. And I just don't know if he was walking around that anybody would know who he is. It's not his fault. He deserves to be in the top 5. He ought to be in the top 5. But he plays hockey in South Florida. And I love the guy. We saw him at Heat games during the playoffs, even though he might have been rooting for the Celtics, but we're not going to discuss that here. Doesn't matter. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I just couldn't put him in there. Plays hockey.
See, this is where I weigh like the importance of his team a little bit more. Like that's one thing. That in terms of like,
if we did a power ranking of like players, he would be in the top 5. He is right now on the Mount Rushmore of athletes in Miami, of current athletes who are active. But when all these other things are considered, I just don't know that I can get there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like,
no. I think the it quality is low. Certainly, I gave him only a 4 in terms of it quality, recognizability. But we're also kind of undervaluing the Canadian vote and the fact that a lot of Norwegian, European countries really love hockey. So while it's still hockey in Miami, it's hockey elsewhere, and it's a sport that a lot of people worship. And so that raises it. Like maybe he can get a pub sub and nobody's going to recognize who the hell he is. But at the same time, if he
can't go to a Tim Hortons and not get recognized.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly what it is.
There's no Tim Hortons in Miami, David. So it doesn't matter to me.
So importance of South Florida less.
Thank goodness there's no Tim Hortons in Miami.
Why?
Because the coffee is weak sauce.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm sleepy after I have it.
Oh,
doesn't work.
Okay. Any other honorable mentions?
The one last thing on the Tkachuk thing, though, it's like, yeah, he brought his team to the NHL championship, the Stanley Cup, right? And the thing is, they sold out Panthers games at Florida Live. I think that's what it's called now, Florida Live. Tkachuk gets so much credit for it. the team gets a lot of credit for it too. And so
Sure.
that was a great team. And so I didn't give him all of the credit for that. All right. I gave him some credit. I gave him a bulk of that credit, but the team was great. Like that's a good team. All right. Other honorable mentions. I had Tyler Hero as an honorable mention.
Yeah, I didn't even include him.
Okay, fair enough.
He's no longer part of the South Florida sports landscape.
I guess so. I had Jalen Ramsey as a honorable mention. His ties to South Florida obviously go deep from here. Went to school at Florida State, unfortunately, but we're not going to count that against him. That's fair. And then was an All-Pro for 7 years, 4 years, 7 Pro Bowls. Was basically the top cornerback in the sport for several years. That was all before he came to Miami. He's still considered one of the top 4 or 5 corners in the NFL. He just hasn't played it down yet for the Miami Dolphins. And so that's like the only reason he's not in the top 5. He's an honorable mention. And there's other people in the top 5 who I have. All right. Any other honorable mentions before we get into our list?
No, that's it.
All right. Give me your number 1 right now is
pretty clearly Lionel Messi. It has to be number 1. Like he is the star, the superstar, like what we just said, everything that Jordan was, but on a a bigger scale. Like football, soccer is like second to cricket in terms of like global popularity, and his face is instantly recognizable. He just led his team to his national team, I should say, to a World Cup. Like he is on the highest stage right now, and for him to come to South Florida without ever having set foot on the pitch or anything like that, he does not have to score a single goal, and already he's the biggest star South Florida's ever had at any point in time. Like, I mean, Shaquille O'Neal is prime, Dan Marino's prime. Nothing of that sort compares to the global importance of a Lionel Messi. He is the very best of the best of the best of all time, and he happens to be playing in South Florida also. Not in Miami, but we count all of South Florida. And I think it's incredible to even have him be a part of the sports landscape.
It's like Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers. It's not. I mean, it's bigger in America, and then you add in the global scale of it, and then it's like it's like 100 times more, right? Like it's arguably the GOAT coming back on the heels of big accomplishments, the way that Brady did, leaving New England not long removed from a Super Bowl, and then coming to Tampa, promising a chance for championships. And that's why it's different than Michael Jordan. The Wizards didn't expect to win a championship when they got MJ, right? It was just kind of cool that they got MJ. Lionel Messi comes to the MLS in large part to elevate it and to get people to subscribe to Apple so that they can watch the games. But also, the Inter Miami now has a chance. Not this year, because they're basically mathematically out of the playoffs, but next year, that they can actually win a championship. So in that regard, it's very similar to Tom Brady. And then you consider I'm going to underscore your point about the global appeal here. Who was I don't want to argue it, but we could argue Dwayne Wade was the biggest star athlete Miami has ever seen. Some might say Dan Marino, whatever, but let's just say it's Dwayne Wade, just for the purpose of this argument. It's going to make sense.
Okay.
Dwayne Wade has 20 million Instagram followers. That is so many Instagram followers. Tom Brady has 14 million Instagram followers. Tom Brady is the Michael Jordan of the NFL, and he has 14 million Instagram followers. D Wade has 20 million. D Wade is a star among stars, right? Lionel Messi has 479 million Instagram followers.
That's a lot.
That is so many Instagram followers. That is so many. That is the scale that we're talking to. Messi's number 1. Number 2, I think you and I agree.
It's Jimmy Butler. Yeah. He is the second biggest star here. Again, I'm not so sure about the global appeal, although I think we're starting to see that. We cannot underscore the fact that yeah, I think so. I think the fact that he has a shoe company that's immensely popular in China, which is the most populous nation, or second or first at this point, in terms of, it is a billion plus, let's say. When you have even a percentage of a billion plus, that's still a shit ton. So it does not matter when you're talking about that kind of scale. At the same time, like he is warm, he's friendly, at least publicly, despite the persona that he's cultivated here in the NBA and amongst NBA fans. He loves soccer, he loves tennis. Those are global sports.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's endeared himself to all these superstars at the top of their respective games, and that he is one of them. Like he is like hobnobbing. I don't think we ever saw Dwayne do that. Like, because Dwayne didn't give a damn about football or soccer. I mean, like, he didn't care about tennis necessarily. But for him to be like, oh, that's my boy. I know this guy. Like, all of Brazil knows about him and his friendship with soccer players. So I
When
think
we
that's
were
a
in the
huge thing.
playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And you start to get the global media outlets coming in.
He's
from
dating Shakira.
Brazil.
How much can I even forget that? I'm sorry. I'm overlooking perhaps the biggest impact now.
They have gone on dates and shared sushi. We don't know officially that they're going steady, David. But to your point, he has endeared himself to all of Colombia. He's endeared himself to all of Brazil, all of Mexico, all of China, quite obviously. With the leaning deal is such a huge thing. I mean, this is the code Kobe cracked years ago. I mean, he was Nike after Adidas, but he made a point every offseason to go out there, right? And he became a mega star. And we saw what it did for him post career, right? I mean, the guy he printed money. It was crazy. Yeah. And I think we're seeing Jimmy Butler kind of start to do that a little bit. So I think the global appeal is massive. And it's a great point, not one that I thought of. It might be, I don't know that it's bigger than Dwayne Wade, because Dwayne Wade was still just like exciting in a way that even Jimmy Butler, as great as he is, I wouldn't characterize his style of play as exciting. I think that's fair to say about Jimmy Butler. D Wade was exciting. D Wade was a star among stars even when he was in the NBA, arguably the best player in the league for a couple of years, something Jimmy Butler could never claim. But he's doing the marketing, man. That dude knows how to shake hands and kiss babies in a way that a lot of people don't, and he is very good at that. So he's making it work. Jimmy Butler is number 2 on my list as well.
What were your individual scores? What were your individual scores?
I didn't really do the individual scores. Okay. I just sort of like
did
them all. But and I'll do it right now if we're going 0 to 10. Talent is I got it as a 9. Yep. 9.5 if you want to get. Yeah. Resume, there's no championship, but man, I care that he has done what he's done. So I got his resume at like an 8. I think it's respectable. Okay. Importance to South Florida, I got it as a 10. He's the reason why the Heat are in the finals. I mean, he's the guy. This is the part that you and I disagree on. I think everybody knows where did you have it?
A 9 on importance.
Okay, so same. And then global appeal, I would say off the top of my head, I'd probably go 7. Honestly, he's doing good work. He's doing work, man.
Yeah, I got him an 8 there.
Oh, good. Okay, he's on those Michelob Ultra PJs. You know, like he's making the rounds. This is where the debate gets heated.
Let's do it.
3 through 5. We'll do it after the break. Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. This is where it gets tough. Strap in, folks. Messi's number 1. Butler's number 2. We've gone through the honorable mentions. This is where it gets interesting. Number 3 on the list of biggest stars in Miami sports on David Ramil's list is...
I just want to say I think it's a sizable gap. You've got Messi, you've got Jimmy, and then everybody else is just like not even close. Just because they lack the global it factor, the fact that they're more recognizable faces, etc. I just don't think that qualifies, at least not for the people on my list. So number 3, I've got Tyreek Hill coming in 3rd. Just an incredible talent, which is why I have him as a 10 in terms of how he is one of the best receivers in the league and has been for a number of years. 1, 2, 3, whatever trio or whatever order you want to put him in, certainly a top 5 receiver, and that means something. He does not have, I think he has great accomplishments, but I think in terms of the NFL championship, the Super Bowl win that's in his resume, I don't know how much he contributed to it individually. I know he was a factor, but it's also a 53-man roster, so it's kind of tough. Or it was at one point in time. I don't know if it is now. But anyway, it's a big roster, so I know a lot of people different. So I've got him as an 8. Certainly an incredible resume. I just don't have him as a top 10. And then in terms of importance to Miami, he's really only a 7. Like, he's played 1 season for the Dolphins, and he was fine, and he got hurt, and they didn't really do anything with or without him there. So I think he's certainly viewed as a great player, a key part of Miami's offense or whatever. But he's just now, he's just a guy now, a really good player on Miami's okay squad, because they continue to be just okay, at least until things change noticeably, maybe this season. And in terms of the it factor, I've got him as a 3. He's just, again, no global importance whatsoever.
All right, so I had Tyreek Hill as an honorable mention, and I didn't include it because I thought he might be in your top 5 earlier. I have Tyreek Hill as an honorable mention. I adore Tyreek Hill. I think, and I know that there's some legal issues and things pending there, but in terms of a football player, his talent is the 10. Yeah, we don't need to get into it. It's too much to explain, and I'm not even quite sure on the details. But
okay, I might take him off my top 5 depending on what those are. Is it enough?
Okay. The talent's a 10. I mean, it doesn't sound like he's what the talent's a 10. The resume. What did you have the resume as?
An 8.
That's fair. He was super important to that Super Bowl, but even more than that, 7 Pro Bowls, 4 All-Pros. He got MVP votes last year. I mean, the guy's one of the best offensive players in the league, absolute game changer, a guy you have to worry about. His gravity has been compared to Steph Curry on the football field, right? So the guy's immensely talented.
So why do you leave him off then? Before you get into your number 3, why'd you leave him off?
Everything else. I think his importance to Miami sports is huge. Like, he kind of changed it. It's almost like when Shaq came to the Heat in 2006, except we just haven't seen the championship yet, right? And the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I mean, we know that. So maybe the championship is going to come. But
it took Shaq 2 years too.
Exactly. So it just hasn't happened yet. And then the global appeal. You're right. I had Tua number 3, a different Miami Dolphin. I had Tua number 3. And the reason I had him number 3, and if I would have had 6, Tyreek Hill would have been 6. I had Tua number 3, not because of the talent, and certainly not because of the resume, and not even. And the global appeal isn't great, although it's probably bigger than Tyreek Hill. Tua has a lot of followers, 2 million Instagram followers. It's the importance to the sports market here.
Yes,
I had that as a 30 out of 10, David.
Oh, I went
because the whole Tuanon thing, because of all of it, because the rallying behind him, I've never seen anything like it. It's wild and it is crazy. And I'm telling you, David, when I was at a Heat game and Tua was standing behind me, he had to leave. He had to leave the game because he couldn't watch the game because all anybody wanted to do was take pictures with him. He is a superstar in this market. He's the biggest superstar at quarterback since Dan Marino. It's not close. It's not close. And Dolphins fans, the Dolphins are the king in Miami. They are the king. It is a football town, and it has been forever. And he's the quarterback. He's QB1. That's it, man. If you're a quarterback that people like in this market for the Miami Dolphins, you've got to be in the top 5. You have to be. You just have to be. So that's why I had him. Number 3.
I have him at 4 on my list.
Okay. So we're not even disagreeing, really.
No, not really. Just in terms of overall. Right? I think Tyreek, just because he is so much clearly better at his respective position than
no
Tua
doubt about
is,
it. No doubt about it.
I think that's what puts him higher there because you have to evaluate that where he stands amongst receivers. He's like one of the best of the games. Tua getting there maybe, but then not necessarily considered that role. And I'll be the first to admit I have not actively watched football in quite some time.
I think all the points you make on Tyreek Hill are good ones. Like I said, if this was a top 6, he would have been 6. I just had Tua higher, and then I had 2 people higher than him. I am not going to say anything disparaging in terms of the resume on Tyreek Hill. So moving on to number 4 on David's list.
I already told you Tua is 4th on my list.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'll tell you who 4 on my list is then, right?
Yeah, go for it.
I got Pat Riley.
Oh.
This is the part where you get mad at me.
No, I mean, what am I going to do when you? Can we get Rowan Nodkearney on here just real quick?
To yell at me for changing the rules?
Oh yeah, here we are mid game. Be like, hey, biggest stars, not a player at all. Woo!
We never specified.
No, best players, biggest South Florida sports stars. Is it Pat Riley? No, it is absolutely not.
Of course it is.
What is Jimmy Johnson because he's on TV?
Not anymore. If Jimmy Johnson was still running the Miami Dolphins and won a bunch of championships, then yeah, he would be.
Oh,
instead, he owns the Big Chill, and shout out to Big Chill.
Bill Parcells available? I don't know.
Bill Parcells did nothing in Miami. He could go kick rocks, dude.
Nick Saban is he still one of ours?
That's funny. I know you know enough about the Dolphins to know that.
He could win a billion championships in Alabama and elsewhere.
I think he has, and it hasn't mattered. I think he has one.
He's still crap. He's still worthless.
That's right.
He ruined everybody on that team.
Overrated. It was all Tua when he was in Alabama. That's
oh god.
I got Pat Riley, man. He's got branches. That dude's got roots, man. He's got roots. 3 decades here. Come on.
Yeah. Hey, man. Like, yeah, certainly.
He's still active. Still doing things. He's working on his 5th iteration.
Yeah. Clearly, you're not using Twitter as a reference because hashtag Sleepy Pat is always trending. It seems like
I use Twitter to know what not to think. I see what Twitter is saying, and then I know that that's ridiculous.
Interesting. I use it as more of a barometer because I get the ridiculous takes in real life too. Like any time spent with family members for like a brief minute of time, it's like, oh, you're the ones. Are you sure you're not on Twitter?
Pat Riley, in terms of avatar. Let's go. Talent, first position. I mean, he's among the best presidents, GMs, whatever we call it, showrunners of a basketball team.
What's he done lately? Dwayne Wade was doing all the recruiting, buddy. What are you talking about? It wasn't Pat.
Resume is a 10 out of 10.
Being facetious. Members of the front office, I apologize.
Importance. Importance to South Florida sports to 10. Oof. Come on.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it has to be.
And global appeal is not a 10, but it's higher than you might think. I mean, people know who Pat Riley
knows him. Everybody. Yeah. If you follow basketball, you know who Pat Riley is. And I'm sure there's a swath of European NBA enthusiasts that are well aware of what Pat Riley has done and accomplished over his career.
Pat Riley, man. He's kind of low on my list now that I'm talking it through.
No, because he's not a player, so it doesn't matter. This is all moot. Tyreek Hill's in your top 5 by disqualification of inserting Pat Riley into your top 5.
Okay, then you're gonna be really upset with number 5. But who's your number 5?
Oh, it was Kachuk. I already said it earlier.
Okay.
He's best player on a really good hockey team. Again, hockey does have more global appeal than the Miami Dolphins.
I was disparaging the Miami Dolphins. The fact that he plays hockey, I'm wearing a Florida Panthers hat this entire podcast. I just realized it.
Oh, the irony!
It is.
Okay. All right. Who's gonna? Let me. Oh, is it Dan Marino? Is Dan Marino your number 5? You're gonna hoist the jersey into the rafters? It's still Dan friggin' Marino.
If his restaurant was still in business, he would have a case. But the restaurant wasn't very good.
Oh God, no! But the bar in Cocoa Walk was stupid good. Yeah.
Really?
Sorry, that's a long time. Yeah,
why? The cocktails were good, or it was cheap? Like, what was so good about it? Atmosphere?
Yes.
Vibes?
Yes.
Importance to South Florida sports? It factor?
Oh,
resume?
My God. Wow. That resume splattered all over Cocoa Walk. Yeah, the talent. I don't even know. Anyway.
All right. So so we've already rounded out your top 5. Can you just recap your 5 really quick for the listeners, and then I'll do my 5.
Number 5, Matthew Tkachuk. Number 4, Tua. Number 3, Tyreek Hill. Number 2, Jimmy Butler. And number 1, Lionel Messi.
All right. My number 1 was Messi. My number 2 was Jimmy. My number 3 was Tua. 4 was Pat Riley. And number 5, David. Our friend. Miami Heat fan.
Is he?
Florida Panthers fan.
Really?
Miami Dolphins head coach, Mike McDaniel. Number 5. Biggest star in South Florida sports, Mike McDaniel. Quick hit list. Talent against competition. He's already considered an 8, and he's been a head coach for 1 year. People love this guy. He's one of the better coaches in the NFL. Resume, not much to speak of as a head coach, but as a coordinator, as all of these things, like the guy, people talk about his resume like it's like how he's not been a head coach yet. People love what he's done. He's reinvented the zone run scheme. He's reinvented. What's going on there? He reinvented the. Were you interrupting me on purpose?
I was taking a break there. No, I don't know what button that was pressed there. I was taking a break. I was hoping you to come back. For those of you not watching us on YouTube, and if you haven't subscribed, shame on you. But anyway, I had to take myself out of the conversation.
There.
Pat Riley is one thing, but Mike McDaniel.
Importance of South Florida sports. It's a 10. It's a 10.
He hasn't done anything. Like, why don't you just go Don Shula? At least you have to drive on his road to get to the stadium.
Well, Don Shula is no longer with us.
Oh my God! You're gonna let death stop you from breaking the rules? I mean, we've broken them already.
I have. I mean, I understand you think I'm breaking the rules, but we never said that there could be no non-players in here.
Okay,
That's
McDaniel
this
doesn't
is your fault
qualify
for
anyway.
not thinking out of the box.
McDaniel does not qualify. Like how because he's made an appearance at the Heat and Panther game during the playoffs.
Yes, and people went bananas for him.
They did because they recognize him as the Dolphins head coach, and he's
Correct.
got a lot of energy.
Yes,
but
I
don't think he's as
20 out of 10. That dude is charismatic.
If you were in Philadelphia, would you put Meek Mill up there as a top 5 sports star? Because this is basically the same thing. A guy who gets everybody
Meek Mill
riled
doesn't
up
coach the Eagles.
But he gets Sixers fans fired up to boo at Joel Embiid.
I'm not talking about top 5 mascots. I'm talking about top 5 stars in Miami
Meek
sports.
Mill is a mascot. Wow. Man.
That's kind of what DJ Khaled is for the Heat. Meek Mill is a mascot for the Sixers. He's also a very decorated hip-hop artist.
Well, I guess he's never coming on the podcast now, DJ Khaled.
I would love to talk to Meek Mill. I want to talk about his beef with Drake and how it got squashed and what it was all about in the first place. It was
I have no
idea. Still no real answers on what happened there.
These people. Which one's Drake?
I think people agree with me. You can let us know in the comments. I've got Mike McDaniel, Pat Riley, Tua, Jimmy Butler, Messi. That's my top 5. It's better than your top 5. It makes more sense than your top 5.
Yeah. What about Howard Schnellenberger?
Love Howard Schnellenberger.
Yeah,
had a second act at FAU, 10? Man. No,
he's gonna make your top 10, huh? Dennis Erickson. No. Wow, bummer.
They're not active. Mike McDaniel's the coaching now. I'm talking about active.
All right. Yeah, I guess Pat Riley does what he does.
Did I snub Eric Spoelstra? Eric Spoelstra was also an honorable mention of mine, but I didn't want to tell you he's an honorable mention because it would have given away the part where you got mad at me.
Right. Yeah. again, changing rules midway. That's okay. That's okay. We've gone on too long here, partly because the rule change has just completely thrown me off.
It is. That's how we do it here on Locked On Heat. We're breaking rules. We're redefining how podcasts are done. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. And if you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments your top 5 Miami sports stars. We would love to get your guys' takes. Maybe we could do almost like a sequel to this where we kind of go through and read some of the comments and kind of figure it out and see, if the Wes heads come through, if the David heads come through, who agrees with who. It'll be fun. In the meantime, have a great weekend, David.
Yeah, you got it. I'm surprised you